lot more in this series, but I only got the 2 of my favorite ones. These 3 books right here have the theme of falling asleep, and I like that theme of falling asleep because, like I said to you, I had nightmares as a kid. Probably because my diet was very bad and poor, but you know, we're just gonna vibe like that. Girls had a normal life, normal career, and fell asleep and then woke up in this fantasy world. And I love it. Oh, I love stories like that. It's kind of like isekai, but in books. I absolutely loved about this book that I thought was odd, but now I'm like, oh my god, thank god, because the characters in this were older, like in their, you know, late 20s, early 30s, which looking back, I was like, thank god for that, because do you know how many fantasy books there are where girls are like 20 or like in the 21s or something, and now looking back I'm like, make them older please, give them a backstory, give them lore, give them something. So this book series actually gave them a lore. So the first book I liked it, but not as much as the second one, so it's a part of an interconnected series I really enjoyed called the Golden Dynasty. So this one was the same premise, you know, girl falls asleep, wake up, she's in like a pit or something with all these other to-be brides. So it's kind of, it's just legit like Daenerys Targaryen and Drogon love story like that, just in a book. So it was bigger than the other ones. I really enjoyed it. Obviously there's a little bit of controversy in it, but it didn't go into detail about it. At the time I thought it was odd, but now I'm like, thank god, because it's one of those things where like when you're young you don't understand what you're reading until you're older, because it's like, oh my god, do you know how many things are wrong with it? But I'm glad that the early scene fade into the dark and that it's actually brought up in the book. So it was good in a way, I guess. So I mean, it's just fantasy, just chilling, but I like how it was well written, well done, and the characters were aged up and they actually had lore and they were like, you know, very normal people to think, and I was like, thank god. Fantastical. I really love this book. I really love it very much because out of like the 2 of them, I like Fantastical a little bit more. I do love the Golden Dynasty, but something about Fantastical was just like, ooh, I can read it again, because as you know, I'm just a very like, I just like cute scenarios. So basically our main character Cora, exactly like Cersei in that book, you woke up, because she has brown hair as me, she woke up in a fantasy world. She's like, oh, this is the best dream ever. She has like a blue bird and she had a little sister, and she basically had these 3 princes, and she said, I'm married to him, which he was very smexy, by the way. I was like, oh, I'm living the best dream ever. And there's a curse that played out, and then she realized, oh wait, this is not actually a dream, and then her little birdie friend flew away. Oh yeah, in that world they speak to animals, and I'm like, I want to speak to an animal. I would like to speak to a bird, but then again that would actually be a little bit alarming, because then I would be like, really, I don't want to eat animals then, because they have a personality. So that was me. So she wakes up, and then yeah, she found out that her husband actually hates her, because the Cora of that fantasy world was not a very nice person, and she was actually meanie. So she was an actual Regina George, her doppelganger, or her other version of herself. But this Cora from our world, she's actually very nice, very, very pleasant, very lovely girl. So that dynamic was really funny, cutesy, because Cora is being accused of being this very mean person, but in real life trying to convince Noctor that no, she's different, this is not her. And he basically pretended like in this new version of her, because he got his heart broken by the other Cora. So he was like, I like this fantasy version of you, I'll play along with you, just keep playing as it. And this obviously breaks Cora's heart, because she was like, no, but this is actually me. And then they get teleported back into their own world, her world. Tor has to, you know, apologize. And it's like, about telling. Really loved that book because it's just so harmless, so cute. There's obviously a little bit of spoil, but I just love that book because they're aged up, they're in a fantasy world, and it's just like fantasy for adults with actual age. So I really love that series for that. Radiance. So this one is a little novel. Even though it's shorter, I feel like there's a lot more impact in it. So basically she's the niece or something of this neighboring kingdom, and he is the second born son. So they're engaged for political. He's from a night kingdom and she's from a day kingdom, and they both find each other repulsive, but they're both really nice people. I love this so much because like they're full on say like, oh, you're ugly, but I still respect you. And I think that's what we're missing. You know, it's just like, yes, you don't find them attractive, but they both did their duties. They both get along so well, and they just get along, which I absolutely loved very much, because his name is Brashear and her name is Indigo. They're just a beautiful couple. So it's kind of like a slow burn romance where they're close together, they're not attractive, but over time they develop an attractiveness to each other. Actually so good for it, because even though they can't have kids in it, they just love each other so much. And I love a bit of the drama. And Indigo, she's not weak-willed, she's actually very pleasant, she's really nice. She actually helps Brashear. I don't know how to say his name properly, but even he himself is just a gentleman. He basically, like, you know, he respects her and they get along so well. So I love that for it. It's so beautifully written. I love this one. This one will always have a special place in my heart. This one, it breaks me every time because he's the second born son. So he, like, they don't expect him, they don't need to have children from it. That's why they got married. But his whole family, spoiler alert, got actually highlights the where it's basically like, oh, you're now the king. You have a war going on. You need to secure this. You need to do X, Y, Z. Okay, I'll step up to the plate. But he's actually the king. But the problem is he needs an heir, like a legitimate heir. This never bothered him at first, but what do you like? But he needs an heir, and he was pressured by it. And Indigo like knows this. This is her duty. So basically, Indigo is just like, they love each other. She stood up to the plate as well, but even she knows that she needs to step down because she loves her husband, but she needs to step down so he can marry another woman. And he legit says to the whole cast, just like, I am now the king. I will do all this stuff, but the one thing I will not give up is my wife. It was so heartbreaking because it was so beautiful. Because the entire time, like, they're going through this whole like heartbreaking thing because he wants to be a king, he wants to be a good thing, but the problem is the whole court is pressuring him because if he dies, there's no one else to get the throne. So, and Indigo knows this, and even she towards the end was like, she says like, I love you, but this is like, you're the king and I can't give you a child. And it breaks my heart because even he's like, he knows what has to be done, but he's just like why do I, like, I'll do all this, but why do I have to give up my wife? And she doesn't want to end the marriage either, but the problem is she can't be with him if he's with another woman, have a kid, because that would be absolutely heartbreaking. And I was like, no, it broke my heart. But like towards the end, it ends up good because maid or something brings him his niece, and when he meets his niece, he was like, thank you so much to the maid, thank you so much, you just saved my marriage. And it was so lovely because and there's also a war going on and some drama, but I just love that because at the end they both got everything they want. Like, there was a little bit of tension, like they obviously knew straight from the beginning that they could not have kids, but towards the end of this book, like in this book, it highlighted that as the main focus. And then towards the end, like, they have a kid to raise, and it's so beautiful, and I love it, and everything worked out well, and that's why it's all my time my favorite. And now I want to get into the other one because we're going to talk about his cousin falling in love with a human. Yeah, so that will be interesting. It is a behemoth. of a story. Like, The Last Hour of Gann is like my favorite. Like, it will not leave my head because it is so gosh darn good. Long story short, because this is a long story, and it was an old book too. The Last Hour of Gann is about this girl called Amber. She was an obese woman. Why do I mention obesity in this story? Because it is a critical part of her character. Did I kind of relate to her a little bit when I was like 100 kilograms? Yes. Maybe that's why I loved it even more. I loved Amber because she kicked ass in this book. She didn't give no shivers. She was like, nah man, you're an idiot. She called people out for it all the time. So it starts off with Amber. Earth is basically dying. There's this ship to leave Earth, and she basically gave her sister an ultimatum. She's like, look, I'm leaving. Earth is basically dead. If we don't take this chance now, there won't be another one. And yes, it may be the first one, but we need to go. And her sister was like, I don't want to leave, I don't want to leave. But they both end up leaving in the end. Asteroid field or something. And they just hammered the ship. So the ship was actually spiraling through space forever. There's also a little bit in the story where she's like, because the asteroid, I think, was like small, they hit the ship, so there was a small gap, and basically all the staff got sucked in through that small hole. And I was like, okay, wow, did not expect that. I would absolutely love if there was an audiobook version of this, because this book is so gosh darn long. Like, even I ended up skipping some pages because I'm like, guys, man, this is like the Bible. And it crash landed on this earth, it is cloudy, and it's so much not like Earth. So Amber's like talking to the man, to the captain, and Scott, which was the leader of the group or something, and Scott thinks himself as like the leader, but Amber's calling him out on his bullshit. There is no character in this world that I hate more than Scott. Like, Scott can just go because he was so mean to Amber from the beginning, because Amber's just so level-headed, and he just hated Amber. But even he was just like, well, you're a female, you have to stick around with us because I have kids. And even Amber's like, why? What do you mean? She knows that Scott is full of bullshit, so Amber actually went off by herself, and that is where she meets our main character called Mariqua, and he's just a lizard man. But Amber and Mariqua form this kind of like relationship. So basically, Amber doesn't believe in like a higher power. She doesn't believe in any religion. She just thinks it's all bogus. She doesn't believe in anything. But Mariqua is basically the Pope of this world. He is so powerful. Like, no one can touch him. Like, he is like the king, and where he says goes. Their kind of dynamic is very interesting because Amber has to not only learn his languages, his ways, she also has to understand his religion too, which was a little bit of struggle for her. But for Mariqua, not only does he have to, left his own kingdom, but he has to protect these humans, where he himself was like, I hate these humans, they can all die. But if that is what his God wants him to do, then he will do it. There's this one scene in the book where he's just like, I don't care what happens to the rest of them, just make sure this woman lives. And because Emma was very sick at one stage. There's so much that goes on in this book. The lore and the backstory alone can make a whole video. Another thing too about this book, it is dark. It is not for the faint of heart. It is super dark, super gritty, horror erotica, which I'm just like, okay, I can understand. And she's not lying, because some of these things in it is just like very like, oh, like how I read this in high school was beyond me, and now that looking back I'm like, wow, but it's so well written. Like, granted, it's not the most, gripping book, but how the story is done, it's just like you're sucked in it, you can't look away. Like, Mariqua and Amber is married by his standard, by law. Amber's pregnant in this book. He calls her Amber by her name, because before it used to be wife or woman. Also in the book too, where his religion does not exist. They made it all up. He now can call his wife Amber. So I would absolutely love if there was a book 2, but I'm just happy with how it ended. So much lore, and look how tiny that little pages are. And I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot. But yeah, I love those books, highly recommend them. Those are my all-time favorites, and yeah, hope you enjoy. Please support me for here. If not, just subscribe, smash that like button, and leave me a comment. But yeah, until next time guys, have a lovely day.